Hey guys, welcome back. So I've decided to revamp the SLMKIII series. Got a better setup. The previous series was okay, but I wasn't too happy with the results. So if this is your first time checking out the SL, I'm gonna put the playlist up here, and all the new episodes are gonna start coming out, and the old episodes are gonna start coming down. So to get us started, we're revamping the SL. Let's go. So to get started on this new series, I want to make sure that we're understanding what this board can do. First of all, it's a MIDI controller and a sequencer. There's no instruments, it doesn't create any sound, it strictly controls MIDI information. So to get us started, this board can control up to 8 different zones. Now each zone on the board can send information via MIDI channel, via Midi CC, and through MIDI notes, okay? To get us started on that, we're going to go ahead, we're going to press Shift, Sessions, which anytime you press Shift, it's going to go into whatever is behind. So behind the sessions, right above, is template. Now that we're in our templates, zone 1 is color coordinated blue, the keyboard's blue. So this section here is telling us how we're routing zone 1. Now, this is a default template, so if you're on a default template, it should look similar. Zone 1 can send information out via USB MIDI. It can send information out via DIN MIDI. It can send information out through CV gate, and you can assign it to a channel. Each zone can be individually routed however your instruments or synthesizers or DAW is connected. Now the templates on the left-hand side is referring to Midi CC information. And Midi CC information is traditionally used for mapping a controller or a synthesizer, something where if I move a fader here, I can map it and have it move a fader on the phantom or the motif or whatever synthesizer. If I move a knob here, it'll be like I'm moving a knob physically on the synthesizer itself. Now by default, Novation gives you multiple templates. So if you have a mini Nova or a mini log or a micro Korg, these are templates that Novation built into the board to control that MIDI mapping, MIDI CC information for these specific devices. Now I'm going to change zone 1 back to MIDI, and I'm going to go ahead and scroll each zone to MIDI because we don't have any of these devices here. Okay. Now to make it simple, each zone has a color. So zone 1 is blue, zone 2 is yellow, teal for zone 3, zone 4 is orange, and so forth. And you can change the color of each zone by just clicking a button. But by default, I'm going to leave everything as is. But if later on you want to change the colors of your zones, you just press a button while you're on the zone. Now MIDI routing, the back of this board also has 2 MIDI outs. So you can have it send through the first MIDI out, the second MIDI out, or through both MIDI outs simultaneously. However, because none of my instruments are connected via MIDI DIN, I'm going to turn this off. Let me change the color back to blue. I'm going to turn the gate off, but I'm going to leave it to channel 1. Let's go into our second zone. Let's turn the DIN off and our gate. And we're just going to go through and make sure the MIDI DIN is off. Now if your instruments are connected via MIDI DIN, then each instrument should have its own MIDI channel. For this example, my ModiX is on channel 1. So we're going to leave this to channel 1. My Phantom is receiving information channel 2. So if I go to MIDI, that's on channel 2. The motif rack is assigned to channel 3. And I have a VST that's assigned to channel 4. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the patterns. This is kind of your default layout. We'll go back into zone 1. And now when I play, this should send the MIDI notation to the ModiX. When I click on zone 2, this should send information to the Phantom. When I click on zone 3, this should send information to the motif. And when I click 4, this should send information to the VST. Now in Ableton, I'm going to pull up a screen. I routed each track to a specific channel. You see ModiX 1, Phantom 2, 3, 4. So I went inside Ableton to connect all of this through USB MIDI. Now by default, most DAWs are usually receiving information from all channels, okay? But to connect everything up for me, I routed everything out individually. Depending on your DAW, depending on your layout, you're gonna have to fine tune and find the easiest way to route your instruments, assign them their channels so this board can talk with your synthesizers or your plugins. So let's go back into zone 1. And we know it's zone 1 because it's blue. Now, if you noticed, each knob is assigned a MIDI CC number. Now, these MIDI CC numbers can be mapped however you'd like. If you toggle down, you have an additional 8 MIDI CC channels. If I move this fader here, it's going to tell you this fader is assigned to CC41, CC42 for the second one, and so forth. So if you're ever wondering what MIDI CC it's assigned to, just give it a wiggle and it'll tell you. If you press a button, it'll tell you CC51, 52, so you can MIDI map your devices however you'd like from this board. Now, to give an example of this, if you remember, my VST is assigned to zone 4. So I'm going to click on zone 4 and I'm going to open up the MIDI learn on complete control. Now I've mapped this instrument to CC21 through CC28. And if you remember, if we toggle back up, it's CC21 through CC28 by default. So to make things easier, I mapped that to the VST. So let's go ahead and click out. And if I play and I turn the knob, it's controlling the MIDI CC on the VST. Now, if I click over into zone 1, it's assigned CC21 through CC28. But if you remember, this zone is assigned to channel 1. So even if I turn CC21, it's not changing anything on the plugin because this plugin is only talking through channel 4 and zone 1 is only communicating through channel 1. Now you can set this board up however you like, but you can only talk to up to 8 different zones per session. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and click into sessions and I'm going to save this. I'm going to see how it's flashing right there. If I press it, it's going to turn green. Or if I want to save it, it's going to ask me a color option. Let's change you red and then press and save. Let's go back into patterns. Everything's saved. Let's switch over into a new session. Click patterns. It's back to its default. Okay. So we're going to go back into the one we just created. So this is the starting point of how to route your zones to your instruments or your plugins. You can do it however you'd like. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to stay up to date with all the latest episodes. Feel free to browse through the channel, and if you like, check out these videos. More SL content's coming soon. We'll see you on the next one.